When fear becomes the headline, how far will a government go? And how far will we let it? In 1919, America was fraying. Millions of workers were on strike, inflation was high, and a wave of mail bombs, some sent to judges, others to government officials, culminated in an explosion at the home of Attorney General A. Mitchell Palmer. That blast became a turning point. Palmer, with a young J. Edgar Hoover by his side, declared a war on so-called radicals. And then came the raids. On November 7th, 1919, and again on January 2nd, 1920, federal agents stormed meeting halls and homes in more than 30 cities. Thousands of immigrants and activists were arrested, sometimes without warrants, often without timely access to lawyers. Many were held in overcrowded cells or packed into detention centers like Ellis Island. 249 people were deported abroad, and the Army transport ship that brought them there was the Buford. This is what newspapers called the Red Ark. In the end, fewer than 600 were deported, but more than 2,000 deportation orders were thrown out as unlawful by officials at the Labor Department. And that matters because under the 1918 Immigration Act, deportation power didn't belong to the Justice Department. It belonged to Labor. And that's how Acting Secretary Louis Post was able to intervene, reviewing case after case and stopping many of them. And fast forward to October 2025. In Chicago, federal agents launched what's now called Operation Midway Blitz. More than 1,000 arrests across Illinois, apartment raids in the middle of the night. According to residents and court filings, children were pulled from their beds, phones knocked out of hands, and people detained without clear charges. DHS says these are focused, high-risk enforcement actions. But fear doesn't always stay in its lane. And when the narrative is just the dangerous ones, the circle of who counts as dangerous always seems to grow. Some protests outside an ICE facility ended in injuries and arrests, including clergy and journalists who say they were targeted with excessive force. A reporter on a visa who covered the raids says he was detained and threatened with deportation. And on some campuses, students have reported visa revocations after attending pro-Palestinian demonstrations. These are patterns we've seen before, just with new technology and a fresh code of law. But the resistance is familiar too. Back then, a federal judge named George Anderson ruled the raids violated constitutional rights. Today, a judge in Boston has ruled that targeting foreign students for deportation based on political speech is a clear violation of the First Amendment. Mayors are drawing boundaries, lawyers are challenging enforcement in court, and journalists are documenting what's happening on the ground. Because fear always dresses up as protection. But underneath, it is still fear. And it always demands someone else pay the price. If you value this kind of storytelling, please visit my website and consider joining the Founders Circle. We're down to the final weeks, and your support helps keep it going. 100 years ago, people filed affidavits. They exposed abuses, they reopened jail doors, and they reminded a frightened country who we were supposed to be. So if the next raid happened on your block, would you stay quiet? Or would you speak up and help widen the circle?